people are doing their thing when most of the committees of parliament are not in session. Almost all of them, it's only who are meeting here at this time, 3:30. I think we need to do that because the work and the volume that is before us is quite huge, and it requires us to pay attention to all the issues that are before us, and we must do our job. And thank you very much for honoring this to this important meeting. As I explained on Monday, we were supposed to engage with the IPID, engage with the National Prosecuting Authority, and engage with the Asset Forfeiture Unit, the AFU. Now, in between that period and today, I had the discussions with the head of the NPA, Advocate Batoi, who requested me quite passionately that we must not take the presentation from the NPA and the AFU today, because they want to respond to us quite comprehensively, and they want to check all the necessary information. And having realized that indeed they are committed to helping us, I agreed to the postponement. We are going to reschedule them on the 15th when we will be in the Northwest, because even next week she indicated to me that they have a very, very important meeting of all the heads of the divisions and provinces to plan ahead, to strategize, and it is a long standing meeting for the whole week, and that meeting will also help us as the ad hoc committee with the necessary information that we're looking for. And on those basis, I agreed to the postponement. Now today we are going to engage with the IPID because first let me say that the IPID, in our observation, in our meeting, they gave us a very good report last time when we met with the IPID. And we want to thank the IPID for that. They gave us a very comprehensive information about the work that they do in the Northwest. We didn't really encounter a lot of problems with regard to the presentation by the IPID, which is very, very good. But we said we need another session with the IPID because IPID is very much important. As you will also note his presentation deals with the question that we asked. And the question was with regard to the Northwest Task Team. Just as a way of a bit of a background, the IPID in the previous years, about 5 years or so, on its own accord, it conducted an investigation about the Northwest team. The Northwest team largely was composed of the Hocs in the Northwest. And as you are aware that the Hocs is part of what we want to investigate. Now, why we said, or we developed a special interest in the IPID briefing us with regard to that work is precisely because today, as we speak, the Northwest is in trouble, it's in crisis. The administration of the Northwest has been taken over by the national government. where the national government invokes Section 100 of the Constitution, taking powers of the Northwest and accordingly intervening. They were doing that because part of what they identified as a problem was the allegations of corruption, allegations of fraud, allegations of mismanagement. Is one reason that one of the main reasons why the Northwest government collapsed. Now, when the allegations of fraud, corruption, and all of that, they must be investigated. And the Hawks plays, as you all know and agree, it plays a very important role in investigating such matters. And they must investigate, they must arrest the perpetrators of corruption and fraud. They must accordingly deal with the situation that is before you. Now, if a body of people who are expected to do that job are also investigated, they are investigated by the IPID, it paralyzes the whole effort to investigate crime and corruption in the Northwest. And that is why people in the Northwest acted with impunity, that investigations were not carried out, that the people who are corrupt and who are stealing the money were not arrested. It is because of the team that is supposed, or that was supposed to do that, is also meddled into some things that we cannot explain. Now, the briefing of the IPID must help this committee to understand really what was the source of the problem, why cases were not followed as they were, because people who were charged with that responsibility were not doing their job as they should, or as they were supposed to do the job. And today, I propose that we must not take or discuss what the IPID presented to us 2 weeks ago, because already we have the report and we engage with the IPID. Not unless honorable members think that there are some issues, 1 or 2 or 3 issues that they picked up last time, and they think perhaps that the IPID must respond to those particular issues. They gave us the report. We have noted the report. We discussed the report. It's going to be part of our ongoing engagement with our work as the Hoc Committee. But specifically today, they are going to brief us with regard to this unit. They know it better. They investigated it. They will share with us where is progress, where are they, what is happening today with that unit, and what is the way forward in terms of that. And as a committee at a later stage when we discuss, we will, I'm sure, link the information that we get today with why corruption, crime, fraud, and all of that were not investigated in the Northwest. We will discuss and check whether does this make sense or not. Does it tells us why the government had to even collapse, because people who were stealing were not dealt with accordingly. And it's quite important to listen, in my view, to this story, to this event as they unfolded, with a view of getting deeper into the issues and understand them better. As the honorable members are aware, when we discussed last time, we made a very good observation about the good work that the previous Hoc Committee did in terms of investigating its work in the Northwest. But unfortunately, they didn't go into much deeper detail about the law, the role of the law enforcement agencies, what they did. And this platform, our focus, we want to really help the province and help this process. And it can only be done so when we have all the information at our disposal. I thought perhaps I must explain the context and the background so that this must be clear and it must be understood along those lines, why specifically we wanted this submission, because it will form part of our understanding of the whole issues in the Northwest Province. Having said that, if you allow, can I invite? I'm not sure who's going to lead us. I see members from IPID here. I see Mr. Matthew Sissoko. I see Ms. Antoinette Mpaho, yes, and others. They will indicate who's going to lead us and they will guide us. Over to you. I propose that I can see that it's a very short presentation. Let me not prescribe the time and give the opportunity. Take your time to brief the committee accordingly about that situation. Over to you. Thank you. Hello, hello, IPID.
Chair, we were told that Ms. Nklatseng was going to lead the presentation.
Yeah, she was. Was I audible? Because I become worried that I don't get feedback. Are they there?
Yes, Chair. They are here.
Yeah, take over, please, IPID.
Mr. Mamabolo?
Sir, can you hear me?
I can hear you, sir. Can you fly to the...
Okay, the ED will just move over. I think there's something wrong with the machine. The ED will take over. Thank you.
Okay. If you're having difficulties on your side, I can fly to the presentation this side.
You can upload it from your side.
I can do it on my side.
Yes, please do so.
Okay.
Mr. Nkululeko. Whilst uploading, let me first thank the chairperson for allowing us to do a presentation and apologize for the challenges that we had 2 weeks ago in relation to the ICT network. But I hope that today things will go smoothly, and hoping that we will be able to also respond to some of the comments and questions that are raised by members. But let me just also indicate, Chairperson, that I am with my colleagues, Mr. Matthew Sissoko, who is the National Head of Investigation, Ms. Batsiba Mutlale, who is the Provincial Head of IPID in Northwest, Ms. Antoinette Mpaho, as well as Mr. Robert Mamabolo. Chairperson, I will therefore request that Mr. Matthew Sissoko be given an opportunity to present our inputs towards this committee. Thank you. Over to you, Mr. Sissoko.
Thank you, Edith. And good day to the Honorable Chairperson and the members present and colleagues. I'm going to do a presentation as per the request that was received from the Hoc Committee. Our presentation will talk to investigation relating to the Northwest team, the General Mabula team as we call it, and the respective investigation we're doing in terms of Sinoville CAS 534/5/2017, Acacia CAS 123 of 6/2006, Hillbrook CAS 988 of 6/2017, Glasdorp CAS 188 of 1/2010, and Glasdorp CAS 300 of 4/2010. I must indicate that those Glasdorp CAS numbers, they include other cases that happened in other jurisdictions within IPID as it become within the Northwest, as it will become clear when I continue with the presentation. In terms of the investigations we're doing against this team, there are 5 investigations in particular. Out of the 5, 3 are already on the court roll. 1 is still awaiting the review decision by the it's NDPP chairperson, not DPP. Apologies there for the typo. It's NDPP and not DPP. And then the other one is still under investigation. The first case, chairperson, the members that are under investigation there is General Mabula, General Makele, General Mutsunyane, Brigadier Moyane, Brigadier Korane, and Colonel Dawood. This investigation is allegations into relate to the investigation into allegations of corruption and money laundering against former acting National Commissioner General Patlani, who allegedly abused his power as the acting National Commissioner and conspired with the Mabula team to defeat the ends of justice and interfere with IPID investigation. This investigation is linked to a 96 million investigation of corruption and money laundering against General Patlani and service provider in the FSL environment. In terms of the status, Chairperson, the case was resubmitted to the DPP for decision after the initial decision was taken not to prosecute. IPID submitted the matter to the NDPP for review. This matter is now currently handled by the investigating directorate in the NPA. We are currently awaiting the outcome of the review from the NPA. Just as a quick background, Chairperson, I need to indicate that after the President had established the investigating directorate of the NPA, there was engagement between the role players in the law enforcement agencies, including ourselves, with the NPA, where we're then required to assist the investigating directorate. As a result of that engagement, there was an agreement that these matters of particular high-profile matter would then be investigated under the auspices of the investigating directorate of the NPA, even though they are actually IPID matters. Hence, the indication there that this matter is now handled by the investigating directorate of the NPA. And this is also because we have signed now the MOU with the investigating directorate of the NPA, and some of our investigators, particularly those that were involved in these investigations, have been seconded to the investigating directorate to continue with this investigation. The next matter, Chairperson, involves General Mabula, Brigadier Korane, Colonel Zandamela, who's now deceased, Colonel Dawood, Captain Mbuli, Warrant Officer Maholi, Captain Makutu, Captain Makubu, and one Warrant Officer Kutumela. This investigation, Chairperson, relates to allegations of murder against the General Mabula team relating to Acacia 123 of 6, 2006, after a theft of 14 million rand from Binoni, as per Binoni CAS 86005-2006. The organized crime unit, then under the control of General Mabula, was deployed by General Richard Mdluli to investigate these cases. The unit arrested Mr. Solomon Mangweni with a view to interrogate him. And then Mr. Solomon Mangweni was taken to Macau SAPS, where he was interrogated and subsequently tortured until he died. Members took the deceased to hospital and allegedly informed the doctor that the deceased was breathing when they brought him in. The doctor contradicted their version and stated that the deceased died 2 to 3 hours before he was brought to the hospital, since rigor mortis was in an advanced stage. Excuse me, Chair. The NPA has decided that a formal inquest must be held on this matter, and the matter will be going before court on the 14th of April 2021 at Brett's Magistrate Court. This matter is also now handled by the Investigating Directorate of the NPA. The next matter, Chairperson, involves General Mabula, Brigadier Korani, Colonel Zandamela, who is now deceased, Colonel Dawood, Captain Ndluli, Warrant Officer Mwatludi, Captain Makutu, Captain Makubu, Warrant Officer Kutumela. And this is investigation into allegations of torture against General Mabula team on Hill Procast 988 of 2018. This case is connected to the Acacia matter of murder. So what had happened is that when this team was investigating that alleged robbery, they then arrested these individuals and they took them, others to Germiston and Hillbrook, others to Macau. And Macau, that's where the murder happened. And at Germiston and Hillbrook, that's where the torture allegedly happened. The DPP decided to prosecute and decided that the matter must be heard in the High Court. The defense made representation to the DPP. The representation was declined by the DPP. The case was appeared for the first time on the 20th of December in court. The case was postponed to the 16th of April 2021 for pre-trial hearing and the outcome of further representation to the DPP. I must indicate here, Chairperson, that the team, even though their representation was declined, they continued to make representation again, which is now with the DPP. And they even took the matter to court to try and stop the prosecution. And they lost that court process. The matter is also handled under the auspices of the Investigating Directorate. The fourth matter, Chairperson, is an investigation into Captain Dawood, Sergeant Kutumela, Constable Pebane, Warrant Officer Matheson, Warrant Officer Vermeulen, Constable Musala, Warrant Officer Tiponyane, and Captain Mano, who's now deceased. And the following case numbers are involved there. CAS 5 of 4/2008, CAS 122 of 12/2010, Taxdorp matter. Mohwase CAS 91 of 4/2008, Taxdorp CAS 91 of 4/2010. Taxdorp CAS 94 of 4/2010, Potchefstroom CAS 175 of 4/2008, Kanana CAS 188 of 1/2010, Kanana CAS 222 of 1/2010, Jubatin CAS number 7 of 4/2008. This investigation, Chairperson, is investigation to allegations of torture against members of the serious violent crime at the time, when they resided under Major General Mabula, who was then the director responsible for this team. Most of the victims in these cases were police officers based at different units and police stations within the Northwest province. The victims were allegedly tortured and forced to confess to admit to the commission of the alleged offenses. The victims were arrested on allegations of ATM bombing. However, all cases against these victims were withdrawn, ostensibly because there was no case against them. In terms of the status, Chairperson, during 2010, the cases were referred to the North Gauteng DPP, wherein Advocate Mngweni decided that the involved members be criminally prosecuted and the J50 warrant of arrest were issued. And they were executed against Captain Dawood, Sergeant Kutumela, Constable Pebane, Warrant Officer Matheson, Warrant Officer Vermeulen, Constable Musala, Warrant Officer Siponyane and the deceased Captain Manu. These members are alleged to have used the same modus operandi in all of these cases in terms of torturing these members, Chairperson. The case was provisionally withdrawn in order for the NPA to centralize prosecution of these cases as they had happened in different jurisdictions. However, when the matters was reinstated and placed on the court roll, the NPA had decided now to charge only Warrant Officer Kutumela and Lieutenant Colonel Dawood. The case is currently on the court roll and has been postponed to the 15th to the 19th of March 2021. So far, 6 witnesses have already testified. I must indicate, Chairperson, fortunately, when these matters happened, I was at the time the provincial head for Northwest. And when I became aware that there was a number of these torture investigations, I then approached the DPP of Northwest as well as the DPP of North Gauteng, so that these matters can be prosecuted as one matter, because it was clear that these members were on a rampage, allegedly to prosecute, sorry, Chairperson, allegedly to torture these police officers as well as members of the public. Currently, this matter is on a court roll, as I've indicated. We have approached the NTPP also to review this issue of other members not being charged. And then the matter is also now being dealt with within the auspices of the investigating directorate. And these are the issues that they're also looking at. The last matter is an investigation into Colonel Dawood, a warrant officer Tsipunyane, and it's a test of CAS 304/2020. And this investigation into allegation of death as a result of police action. The police were chasing a robbery suspect. There was an exchange of shots between the police and the suspects. The police shot and killed one of the suspects. The investigation in this matter, Chairperson, is completed. At this stage, the shooting appeared to be justified. Once the ballistic report is obtained and the docket will be referred to NPA for decision. What is outstanding in that matter, Chairperson, is the ballistic report. In the next slide, IPID Northwest has not received cases with allegations relating to interference with the work of the committee, corrupt business practices, or mismanagement of government resources in relation to SAPS. However, Chairperson, as IPID, we remain open when any matter is brought to our attention, as the Chairperson have heard indicating in his opening remarks, where, for instance, there are issues that cases were not being investigated and there was corrupt relationship maybe between members of the DPCI and those who would be suspect in corrupt practices. IPID will always be open to look into these matters, Chairperson, when they are brought to our attention. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Short and sweet, very clear. Let me open the floor to honorable members to ask questions. Honorable Toy, and who follows? I see Honorable Toy only. Yes, Honorable Toy.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, it's a great concern that we were only supplied with this presentation about 20 minutes before this meeting started.
Yeah.
If Parliament is requested, or if it is expected from us to partake in an effective manner in matters of urgency, then we must be able to prepare ourselves for this. It's unacceptable for us to be provided with the documentation on such short notice. I do not know where the problem lies. In the previous time, there were issues as well, not of the similar nature, but there were issues. So I can't see how we can be expected to partake if we're not allowed and not provided the opportunity to prepare duly for this. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Yes, I apologize. I missed that point. IP needed to start by explaining why they gave us a late submission of the document, but they will have to respond to that particular point so that in future we know what to do. Honorable Zandamela.
No, thanks, Chair. Yes, Chair, can you hear me?
Yes.
Chairperson?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
You're on the platform.
Yes, Chair. Look, Chair, I was listening and to the presentation, and as it was said in the presentation that no work relating to the intervention in the Northwest Province has been investigated by IPID so far. But Chair, my concern is there's clear signs that the law enforcement it's not doing what it's supposed to be doing in the investigation, specifically to the intervention to Northwest. Walter, what I would like to request IPID is for them to please look at that space, because surely from the presentations that we got from the Hawks and all the law enforcement, it's clear that with regard to the investigations, they are dragging their feet. So can IPID please look into that? Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable Karen Professor.
Thank you, Chair. I want to agree with Honorable Du Toit, because the first impression I had with receiving a report to a parliamentary committee was, and when I saw the report, is okay, how much time did they spend on this thing? Was it a rush job, and did they really include everything that we ought to know? Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you very much. Any other hand? In the absence of any other hand, two questions from me. One question: the Northwest team, task team, was in the Hawks, and my question would be how their involvement in all these that you presented before us impacted negatively in uprooting crime and corruption in the Northwest. To what extent have they impacted negatively towards combating crime and corruption in the Northwest? That's the first question. The second question is, this team, it is clear that it is handling other cases outside the province. Are they doing this outside their jurisdiction, or there's nothing wrong with what we see here, because some of these cases are totally out of the Northwest? Thank you very much. With those responses, especially why the report came late before us. Over to you, IPID.
Thank you, Chair. Our humble apology for the late submission of this report. The delay was to go back to our records and make sure that all cases are being captured. And it actually takes us more time to do that, unlike wanting to present a short work. And the other thing is we also had to determine the status quo of the cases, just to be certain about the status quo. So our late submission for that, it was not a shoddy work. It took us time to actually go back to our records and make sure that we are presenting to yourself proper and correct information before you. And then I think I'll also hand over to Mr. Sisoko just to respond to the questions by the chairperson.
Thank you, Chairperson. On the issue of us looking into this space of law enforcement and how they are investigating cases that are reported of corruption. As I've indicated, Chairperson, once these matters are brought to our attention, we will definitely look at them to see whether the non-investigation of those cases, is it because of corruption or is it because of other issues not related to corruption? That is definitely something that we'll look at. On your question, Chairperson, whether their involvement in these cases impacted on crime and corruption, our answer, Chairperson, to that is a definite yes. You see, what had happened is that in the 2006 matter, the team was brought to Gauteng at the behest of General Mudluli, who initially was the Deputy Provincial Commissioner in Northwest. I know that because I used to work there. The reason why they were brought in this side to investigate this matter, we don't know as yet because we have not been able to establish that. What we know is that once they came to investigate these matters here, a number of people died. This matter that is going for an inquest is just one of the people who died at their hands. So other people, unfortunately, there was no evidence how these people died, except only suspicions. But in one matter, a person who they had arrested and was supposed to have been handcuffed was allegedly shot when he was trying to escape, which we found puzzling. The matter went through an inquest process, and then ultimately nothing came of it because no one was found guilty of that matter. You'll see that this matter are coming a long way, and the victims and the family have continuously been pursuing us to pursue these matters. The other matter of defeating the ends of justice came as a result of the investigation we were conducting against former Acting National Commissioner General Pahlane. And the evidence at our disposal is that General Pahlane made contact with this team and called them in to try and interfere and thwart our investigations. Hence, we laid charges of defeating the ends of justice against these generals and these members who were involved. One of the issues that came there, because the allegations was that, in fact, they in their counter investigation of IPID investigation, they actually opened cases against IPID investigators and even charged 2 of my investigators. That matter was also withdrawn in court. We even had to go to court, Chairperson, to get a declaratory order that they must stop interfering with our investigation. IPID then won that court case with costs that this team must stop interfering with our investigation. So it was clear to us that they were called in by the Acting National Commissioner at the time, General Pahlane, so that he can try and stop the investigation against him. That investigation, Chairperson, is the investigation of corruption, as I've indicated, linked to 96 million investigation. And further investigation into this matter revealed further corruption against General Patlani and other members of the SAPS and service providers like Mr. Kitkiting, who owned a company, FDA. So the investigation actually expanded to an extent that the amounts involved go close to over R1 billion, Chairperson. That matter also is now investigated under the auspices of the investigating directorate because of the scope and the complex nature of the investigation. One of the issues also that delayed that investigation is that we conducted a search and seizure raid at the premises of the service provider, General Patlani, and one of the associates who was involved in the corruption, Mr. Duran Sneyman, who owns a car dealership, who was providing cars to General Patlani and others as gratification in this corruption. And these people then challenged our search and seizure. And this search and seizure was challenged. We won it at the High Court. They petitioned the Supreme Court of Appeal. We won also the Supreme Court of Appeal. They petitioned the Constitutional Court. We even won at the Constitutional Court that session. So it's only then that we could then start opening what was seized from all these individuals to continue with investigation. So that also delayed that part of investigation. But yes, the answer is it impacted on these cases that were investigated. And on the question that they are handling cases outside the province, that first matter is one of the issues that we're looking at, because evidence at our disposal indicates that even how they came to Gauteng to come and investigate these matters was not above board. Thank you, Chairperson.
Any other point? Let me check my members. Oh, members are quite happy. I think that is that from the IPID. You gave us the background in respect of the investigations that you're conducting against the police generally. That is in the first submission that we had from the IPID. And now it was a matter of the task team that, and this task team was very much important in the life of the Northwest, because it was the task team that was supposed to investigate crime and corruption, and the correlation and the impact of their work vis-a-vis the intervention in terms of Section 100 was quite important, because it's quite important to establish why cases were not flowing from the side of the Hawks in the Northwest. But that will be up to the members of the committee at the point when we discuss and we make our own observations about all of these issues. With that, I think we've come to the end of this meeting. And very much.
Yes, I've got Honorable Tutoit and Honorable Karim.
Oh, I see the hands. I thought that there were no longer hands. Yeah, seeing that Honorable Tutoit and Honorable Karim.
And there is Honorable Nita as well.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, just a request. Since we didn't have time to go through the documentation beforehand, I believe that we will be allowed an opportunity to meet with IPID at a later stage, maybe next week or the week after, if we will be granted the opportunity to then reflect back to this documents, if need be, after duly going through everything on our own time.
If we have that time and there are specific issues, yes, we will do that. Yes. Honorable Karim?
Thanks, Chairperson. I was just wondering, not something we can discuss now, but as we're beginning to like draw a close and see what's the way forward, we can do it then. But before that, there is an issue that, well, it's related to the issue, I suppose, what happens. So firstly, on process, obviously, you've explained, and I'm sure all of us support what you've done, the meeting and so on, as limited as it is today. But the question I wanted to ask was, presumably, it would have been ideal to have had the police present when IPID's speaking, because then they will also have a chance to reply to what IPID is saying. I mean, we're not experts in this area. We don't know the information. You probably are most informed than anybody else from your province who's part of our committee. So, I hope that the police have sent an observer or will watch this on YouTube. Because obviously members will have questions. IPID said this, what is your reply? So that's the first thing. The second point is that, Comrade Chair, obviously we can't turn things around overnight. Obviously, we can't just wave a magic wand, one committee and do this, but this has been an issue repeatedly. The Auditor General keeps raising it as well. And the Auditor General's office has got more powers. Now, take, for example, the police taking the IPID to court. I mean, it's one state institution doing it against another. And sometimes the IPID is also not doing its job and taking police. We know of this, with due respect to the current representatives of IPID. We're not saying they're doing anything wrong, but you and I and others here have been around long enough to know that these institutions, regrettably, and you and I have contributed to this, I don't mean personally, collectively as the political party in power, we have created this ethos also of politicization of institutions, especially in the security sector. So this thing of, each institution taking the other to court, it's outrageous, especially at COVID times, right? Now, this is a matter we need to raise again and again. And I think in our report, we must consider putting something in. Secondly, strictly speaking, Comrade Chair, I'm not a lawyer, but the sense I have is that it's only under very exceptional circumstances that the police can take an institution like IPID to court. Because if you've done nothing wrong, then surely IPID has the right to investigate you and then you'll be cleared. But of course, the only basis you'll go to court is if IPID itself is not carrying out a genuine investigation, it's acting politically and or on the behest of some politician, right? So, they have to prove that, otherwise the money must go back to the coffers. If the police lose their case against IPID, if there's no evidence that IPID acted maliciously, they must return that money. This thing has to stop, Comrade Chair. We've raised this thing for over 20 years now. That's why I don't think I can lump it on you. It's something we need to raise at the NCOP with the powers that be, the NCOP chief whip and so on. This thing has to stop. One further consideration, obviously this committee, and I really feel you're in a very unenviable position as the chair, but all of us are, but I understand that we've got so many other responsibilities. But the thing is that we'll have to draw to a close. So the issue that arises also is how can we hand over some of these issues also while we continue some other form of monitoring until the Section 100 is withdrawn? How do we actually get the committee in the NCOP, and then they can communicate with any committee, the police justice committees, I think they're all linked together in one committee on the NCOP side. Of course, they're separate on the other side. How can they follow up on these issues about the behavior of the police and so on, taking to court IPID? They seem to do it at every time. We see in the newspapers, in the media, generally, online, you read in the chat groups. So many investigations are begun, and then IPID goes to court because it can't get the information. That makes sense, okay? I mean, they have a right to that information in terms of the law that we passed in Parliament. Now, the issue is, often you'll find police people taking IPID to court and then still ending up being convicted and so on. So in some form or another, people must give back the money who are using it wrongly. It's a state money. It belongs to the public.
Observations, and I think noting them They will form part of our general discussion as to what do we do in relation to all the issues that we raise, because it is quite true. Honorable Leader.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, I first want to acknowledge the response in terms of late report to us as the committee. But I further want to emphasize to IPID that they must know when we want a report as a committee, it is because we want first to satisfy ourselves in terms of the report itself, and as well do a research, so that when we come to the committee as like today, we have made our own homework in terms of the report itself. So this thing must not happen again, because it limits our participation to the report that they have given to us. And I can't agree more, Chair, the last one, with Honorable Karim to say how we really wish the representative of police were present in this meeting, so that we also able to hear what is presented to us, so that in the next meeting of this committee or another committee, we are able to further probe what is happening between the two entities of state. Thanks, Chair.
Okay. Yeah. Firstly, if the representatives of the police are not here, we will follow them up and request them to retrieve this meeting on YouTube, so that they follow what are the issues and the concerns which were raised by members, which is quite straightforward. But two, I think IPID must take this to the heart. Members are saying, all of us, that we are not happy about the fact that you submitted your report late. It never gave us more time and opportunity to can deal with the issues properly, in case that we wanted to do our own independent investigations out of you. Members were inhibited greatly from doing that. Please, in future, avoid it. Submit the report on time, at least a day before the meeting, so that we have time to go through those particular reports. And please take this extremely serious. I think, as you say, Honorable Muta, the observations made by Honorable Karim will be part of our discussions and recommendations about what needs to happen, how IPID must relate as a watchdog body, how it must relate with the police, and what do we do under those circumstances, because these are two state institutions which are playing different roles as prescribed by the Constitution, and that must be respected, especially respecting the fact that if there is something wrong within the police service, IPID has got an obligation to can investigate those to the latter. Just look at the cases that are presented to us, are quite horrific. You know, it's scary when you hear this, that members at the highest echelons of the police service are investigated for some of these things, and people who must fight crime and corruption, people who must prosecute, who must arrest and investigate those similar cases, they are the ones who are charged with defeating the ends of justice, with murder, with theft, with corruption, and all of that. This is very, very much concerning. That is why it was important to establish the link between their conduct and what they do with the current situation in the Northwest, because it is the very same people, unfortunately, who are supposed to investigate cases that are brought to their attention about fraud, about corruption, and about all of these things within the Northwest. And to establish that correlation is extremely important, so that we know why cases were not moving, and why, if they move, Why were they moving at a slow pace? And all of that. That is quite important. With that, can I just remind you, honorable members, that the meeting is scheduled for 1 o'clock. That is on Monday. Yeah, let us leave other things. The meeting is on Monday to take forward some of the outstanding law enforcement agencies as such. With that, thank you very much for attending the meeting. Let me take the opportunity as well to thank the officials from IPID for honoring our invite and sharing with us this kind of information. We will see how we incorporate everything in our report as such. With that, thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much.